How is it going, everybody? This is RBT coming at you with my college football Week 13 picks for the 2013-2014 season. And man, it's late. It's really late. It's like 12 o'clock at night. Gotta get up for a 8 o'clock class, which I have to get up at 5 o'clock for to be able to get there on time. So, in summary, I gotta do this kind of quick and hope they can do so because I still have a lot to do after this. And I hate that I wait always this late to do this, but my fault. So, crazy that it's already week 13 of the season. Kind of depressing because we have 2 weeks left of the regular season, and then it's bowl week, a bowl season. So, and then we have to wait a whole other, 9 months until football again. So that's depressing, but it is what it is, and let's cherish these last few weeks of the regular season while we have it. Alright, starting off the Tuesday game. Yeah, Buffalo at Miami, Ohio. Buffalo should win this game, no problem. Miami, Ohio is one of the worst teams in Division I football. I actually looked at one of the rankings that have the rankings between all the Division I teams. That's 1A and 1AA. And Miami, Ohio was like 286 out of 300-something schools. That's how bad they are. So Buffalo, big. Like 40, I'll say 42 to 10. Buffalo over Miami, Ohio. Next, we have Kent State at Ohio, and Ohio's been playing very, very bad lately. So is Kent State, and you can either go with Tyler Titleton in the offense of Ohio or Dree Archer in the running back game or the running game of Kent State. And I think I'm gonna go with Kent State in this one. Kent State's been kind of really disappointing this season. They're a complete 360 of what they had a season ago. But Ohio, man, they've actually been very, very disappointing. Kent State's been very disappointing. I thought Ohio was a team that could not necessarily go undefeated, but really, really could compete for the MAC title, and they haven't done so. They were beat. Was it last week or the week before? It was last week, 49-0. They've lost the last 2 games by a combined 79-3. Oh my God. Yeah. So I'm gonna go Kent State. No matter how bad Kent State's played, I've actually seen them in person this season. Sorry, gosh, I can't get comfortable. Kent State by 2 touchdowns. I'll go 34-21. Yeah, 35-21. Kent State over Ohio. My bad. All right, Wednesday we have number 15 Northern Illinois, or number 16. Sorry, they dropped a spot actually. Going in to Toledo, Ohio. There's so many schools from Ohio and Michigan in the MAC. It's like pretty much a Michigan-Ohio conference. But it's Northern Illinois at Toledo. And Toledo has been very impressive, too. So this is really the second straight week Northern Illinois has played one of the best teams in the MAC conference to date. I mean, Toledo has 1 loss in the MAC so far, and that was to Ball State, who they played last week. And this is a very talented team. They have a good offense led by quarterback Terrence Owen, so I expect them to give Northern Illinois all they can ask for. Because, I mean, Northern Illinois has been really dominant at home. They've won, 20-something straight home games. I think it's the longest streak in the country. But they have to go into Toledo. And I'm sure it's going to be a packed stadium here. I mean, of course, when you have one of those MAC teams and they're bringing in a top 20 team in the country, it's going to be packed out. So it's going to be a tough environment. And I expect this to be a game fought down to the wire. But the biggest thing for Northern Illinois, they're on another national stage. Jordan Lynch made a big statement last week with the way he played and the big plays that he made. And I expect them to come out again, not be denied, and they win this game by about 10 points. I go 42-32. Northern Illinois over Toledo. Let's go 42-31. Let's make it a 11-point game. All right, Thursday we have Rutgers at Central Florida, and Rutgers is one of those teams that have completely dropped off the map. People expected them to compete for the AAC this season, and they've lost like 3 out of the last 4. Bailey edged out SMU. This is a team that is easily, if you take into account all their games, except the Norfolk State game, they could have easily lost every single one of the games they played. They only beat Eastern Michigan, one of the worst teams in FBS, by 18 points. That's pathetic. They've just been struggling each side of the football. They've been lackluster this season. I expect UCF to take control of them. Yes, they almost lost to Temple last week, and Temple is like the worst automatic qualifier team by far, or one of the worst at least. But that was surprising. But UCF should come out on a national stage to get to show the whole entire country what they're made of. I expect them to play good, play sound, fundamentally sound, and beat Rutgers pretty solid. I'll go by about 17 points with 37-20 UCF over Rutgers. Our next we have Rice at UAB. I'll pick Rice in this one. I think their offense is better than UAB's. They can run the football. We all saw them playing at Texas A&M. I'm sure they've got better throughout the season. And I'll go Rice by a lot. I'll go Rice by 3 touchdowns. 42-21 Rice over UAB. Next we have UNLV at Air Force, and UNLV has not been very good to say the least this season. UNLV, on the other hand, is 5-5, which is pretty. I mean, they're in the mix. They're in the Mountain West Conference. I mean, they're kind of in the middle of the pack. Not really in the mix, but in the middle of the pack. And Air Force has not won a game in Mountain West yet, so I'm gonna go UNLV. Why would you pick Air Force? The only other one they have on the season. I think they beat a Division 1A school, 1AA, however it is, FCS school, and the other one is against Army. So I'm gonna go UNLV by 10 points. Let's go 35-21 UNLV over Air Force. Next we have Navy at San Jose State. A Navy team that absolutely destroyed my South Alabama Jaguars last week. Made us look horrible. Up to that game, we had lost 5 games by a combined 12 points. That was including the Tennessee loss. Every game we lost this season before the Navy game came down to the last play of the game. We could have very easily been undefeated going into the Navy game. Navy comes out and beats us by 28 points. We played horrible. And we could not stop Navy for nothing. It's bad when Navy throws for about 200 yards on you. It was bad. But they're going to San Jose to play a very good San Jose State team, which fields one of the best quarterbacks, one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the country, David Fowles. So expect this game to be a dogfight. I think both teams are pretty good, and but I think in the end I'm gonna give the edge to San Jose State just because their quarterback is very good, and I don't think Navy can play the way they did 2 straight weeks. We saw how good Navy was though when they played against Notre Dame. That was a fun game to watch. I wish Navy would have pulled that one out, but I'll go San Jose State 28-25 in a close one over Navy. This would be a fun game to watch. It's on ESPN2 actually. When was the last time a Navy game was on ESPN? That's kind of crazy, but yeah, San Jose State 28-25. Saturday we have Cal at Stanford, and something that I kind of don't understand. Yes, Stanford is a great team, and I think talent-wise, they are top 10 in the country by far and easily. But the way we rank teams now pretty much is by resume, not how good they are. And Stanford, yes, they beat Oregon, but you got to take into account they've lost 2 games. Both were to 2 unranked teams, Utah and USC. USC I know is now ranked. By the time they played them, they were unranked. And so how's a team that lost 2 games to unranked teams still in the top 10? Don't understand. Regardless, they will swat Cal. It'll be easy win, because Cal is very bad. And when I say that, I mean it. They're very bad. So go Stanford big, probably by like 4 touchdowns maybe. 42-14. Stanford over Cal. Next we have USC at Colorado. And if you're wanting to rank teams and how good they are and not resume, I think USC is playing like a top 10 team right now. They're playing lights out. They were horrible at the beginning of the season. Horrible. And ever since Lane Kiffin is fired, they're playing out of their minds. Sorry. But USC will keep it rolling, and I mean they're just playing completely out of their minds, and it's crazy how much that team has turned around ever since Kiffin was fired. But I'll go USC by, I'll go at least 3 touchdowns. I'll go 42, probably more than, let's go 42-17 USC over Colorado. Let's say Cal again. I meant USC over Colorado. Citadel at Clemson. Actually, Clemson plays kind of flat in these type of games, but they'll win easy. 52-10. Next, we have Michigan State at Northwestern, man. And you gotta feel so bad for Northwestern. They almost beat Ohio State. And ever since then, they have lost every single game, and half of them, aside from the Wisconsin game, came down to the wire. You gotta feel so bad for them, and they gotta win out these last 2 games to make a bowl game. That's sad because I think they're a pretty decent team, but I don't see them beating Michigan State. I really believe, I've said this ever since the beginning of the season, Michigan State has the best defense in the country, if not the best, top 3 about easily. Their offense has come together, and with that being the case, that's scary because that's a very, very good Michigan State team. Defensively and with a good offense to accompany that, watch out. I think they can beat Ohio State. Spoiler there. But I'll give Michigan State easy over Northwestern. I'll go by 17 points. I'll go, let's see. I hate saying a spread and I think the score. I'll go 34-14 Michigan State over Northwestern. Next we have Oklahoma going into Kansas State to play the Wildcats. And this is two teams which have really, really underperformed this season. Kansas State, they're on a 4-game winning streak right now over some decent teams in Texas Tech and TCU. The 2 wins against West Virginia and Iowa State. But, for the most part, they've underperformed, but they have got things together, got bowl eligible, so you always like that. And Oklahoma, man, they are projected to be a top 10 team in the country, and they have been playing very poor. I expect Kansas State to keep the ball rolling. They are going to continue to a 5-game winning streak, and I think they can beat Oklahoma because Oklahoma is so inconsistent. Their quarterback play has been very inconsistent. Blake Bell will look like one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Next week will look absolutely horrible. Last week they were actually losing to Iowa State, tied at halftime. They came out and obliterated them in the second half, but you really can't have an excuse for being tied with Iowa State at halftime. But I'll go with Kansas State with the home field advantage. Their 2 quarterbacks, Jake Waters, Daniel Sams, have been playing pretty consistent as of late, so I'll go Kansas State by a touchdown. 35-28 over Oklahoma. Next, Memphis at Louisville, one of those horrible teams in the AAC in Louisville. I still believe, even though they lost to UCF late in that game, I think Louisville's still the best team in the AAC. But I'll go Louisville by a lot. 45-14 over Memphis. Old Dominion at North Carolina. Here is a game I've been circling on my calendar all year long because I expect Old Dominion to go into Charlottesville and give North Carolina a fight, a run for their money. Because I really believe Old Dominion is a pretty daggone good football team. And they're 8-3 right now, and I expected them to be something like that. I wish I could find my magazine where I did all my predictions in preseason. I want to see what I said Old Dominion was going to go. They're 8-3 right now. It's the last game of the season. They battled with a couple FBS level programs. They're 2 years away from being actual bowl eligible. They battled with East Carolina, blown out by Maryland week 2, and they almost beat Pitt. I predicted Old Dominion over Pitt, and they let me down, but they came so close. But I expect North Carolina to completely overlook Old Dominion going into the Duke game. It's a rivalry game the week after, so I think they can be overlooking Old Dominion. Old Dominion has one of the best, I think the best unknown player in the country in Tyler Henneke. He's an absolute monster. And I hate they will not be bowl eligible until he's graduated because that's a fine player that nobody will be able to hear of because he never gets broadcasted, talked about bowls or anything. He's a great player. I think a player that can actually go into the NFL, not necessarily start, but at least back up and make a squad because he's very good. He's a little bit undersized, but he can throw the football around, and he makes well that Old Dominion offensive system that they run. So I expect them to give North Carolina a run for their money, but I don't trust them to pick them like that again. It'll be a high-scoring game, and I'm going to go North Carolina 45-35 over Old Dominion. Next, we have Duke at Wake Forest. If Duke wins out, guys, they go to the ACC championship game to play Florida State. On the other hand, if they lose a game, Georgia Tech goes because they're tied right now. Well, Duke is 1 game ahead of Georgia Tech in the standings, but if it gets tied, Georgia Tech has the head-to-head win. But I don't think Duke loses to Wake Forest. Wake Forest has not lived up to average standards for them, I guess I could say. They've not been playing well whatsoever. They are without their best player, Michael Campanaro, and Duke is all fired. This game, I don't think really means much to Wake Forest. The only thing they can get out of these last 2 games is if they beat Duke and Vanderbilt, they are bowl eligible, but I don't think that happens. There's I don't think there's any chance that happens. I think Duke comes in and plays a great game. They really impressed me with how much speed they had against Miami. It really did. The two quarterbacks played well. The running back was really, really good. Some pretty good threats at wide receiver. The defense played good when they had to. I expect them to beat Wake Forest pretty handily and go into next week against North Carolina. I think they can win that game, and man, that'll be an awesome game to watch. Duke and Florida State for the ACC title. What would the country do if Duke beats Florida State and knocks them out of the national championship game, and Duke goes to a BCS bowl? That's what I love about college football, giving these schools opportunities to do something amazing. Just picture Duke making a BCS bowl. How awesome would that be? And you'd probably have Duke versus Stanford or Duke versus Wisconsin. And I know that's probably a mismatch there, but just the possibility of that is just what makes college football awesome. But anyways, Duke by 17 over Wake Forest. Let's go 34-17. Wake Forest losing to Duke. Next, we have Cincinnati at Houston. And something I want to say about Houston real quick is I think Houston is one of the best teams that nobody knows about this season. And they're not going to be known about because they're never going to get ranked. They haven't been ranked so far this season. They came close, but they're not going to be ranked. And they're very, very, very good. Undefeated up to the BYU game. They lost by a point to a very, very good BYU team, which I think is at least top 20 in the country, maybe top 15 talent-wise in the country. BYU is. Lost them by a point. They lose to Central Florida, which is probably a team to win the AAC, make a BCS bowl, on the last play of the game. They couldn't convert, and if they would have scored a touchdown, they'd won, but they didn't. They were like at the 10-yard line, and they didn't convert, so they lost. Lost that game to a good UCF team. They go last week against Louisville, battled them to the very last minute. Louisville came out and won by a touchdown. But that's three really good teams they battled with, almost beat. And I think Houston is by easily a top 25 team in the country. But they're not going to get the recognition for it because of the three losses when they were never ranked. But I still think they're a good team, and they're a young team with a freshman quarterback. This is a team that could make some noise in the next couple of years, especially with Teddy Bridgewater leaving. Well, they're leaving altogether, the AAC is, but they still expect them to make some noise in the next couple of seasons. But Cincinnati, I don't think wins. I think Cincinnati will come into Houston. Houston has a really good offense. Their quarterback, John O'Corn, is young, a freshman, but he can put up some points. They play good defense when they have to, and I just think Houston's a very good team. They're trying to get respected. The Cincinnati's another pretty good team in the AAC, but I think Houston comes out and gets the win by a touchdown. Houston 42-35 over Cincinnati. Next, we have Michigan at Iowa. I think Michigan continues their unimpressive loss streak. I think. Well, they beat Northwestern last week, but that was lucky. that was lucky. Michigan has been one of the most disappointing teams in the country. They're top 20, top 15 coming into the season. I don't think they're a top team by far. A top 15 team by far. I think they're more easily top 40, top 50. But took 3 overtime to beat Northwestern last. We all know how that game ended up. But Iowa's a solid football team. They're never gonna beat you offensively. But sorry about the phone. But they're solid. Play good defense. They're the prototypical Big Ten type team. They're 6-4 right now. Have some solid wins, some solid games, and I expect them to beat Michigan. I really do. I think Mark Wiseman should have a big game. If you've not heard of him, watch this game, and you'll leave the game knowing who he is. And I'll go Iowa playing at home with the upset victory over Michigan by a field goal, 23-20, Iowa over Michigan. Next, we have Virginia at Miami. Miami will overcome their loss streak and get back on track and get a win. And try not to completely see this season as a failure, because I think coming into the season, Miami fans would appreciate and be excited for a 9-win season, 8-9 win season. And once they kind of got hyped up into the top 10, they were kind of thinking the U days were completely coming back, and it's steps you got to take. The steps you got to take. They're a good young football team, but it's steps. They'll beat Virginia pretty easily, 40-21. Illinois at Purdue. One of these teams has to get a Big Ten win, and I think Purdue is a lot worse than Illinois by far. Purdue is one of the worst, I guess you could say one of the worst teams in the Big Four conferences, with that being the ACC, SEC, Pac-12, Big Ten, top 5, Big 12 too. But I think they're by far one of the worst, and I think Illinois goes in there. They looked impressive at times against Ohio State. They folded when they had a chance to come back, but they showed the willpower to come back and fight with the number 3 team in the country. So I think Illinois wins pretty handily. I think Nathan Schillhouse in offense explodes against Purdue and wins big, something like 42-20. 42-20. Mississippi State at Arkansas. I fully expect Mississippi State to win this game. They looked very impressive last week. They kind of took advantage of us playing horrible, where they still forced the turnovers. They did everything they could to win the game, but they couldn't offensively do anything. But I expect them to play physical against Arkansas, 2 teams that play quite similar brands of football. But I'll go Mississippi State defense gets the win. Let's go 24-17 Mississippi State over Arkansas. East Carolina at North Carolina State. I expect East Carolina to get the win. They have a great offense led by Shane Carden. A good, high-powered, the football around type offense. North Carolina State's kind of are they bowl eligible? I'm not real sure. They are 3-7, so no, they are actually winless in the ACC. I know they were having a bad season, but not that bad. So yeah, makes the prediction that much easier. So East Carolina by 10 points, 40-30 over North Carolina State. Pitt at Syracuse. Syracuse has looked very, very bad lately. Pitt beat Notre Dame was 2 weeks ago, and they've they've been up and down the season. Look great one week, look bad the other, inconsistent. But I expect them to beat Syracuse, because Syracuse has been kind of the same, but on the other hand, not the same. They haven't looked, when they look good, it hasn't looked as good as Pitt has. So Pitt by 2 touchdowns, 31-17 over Syracuse. Coastal Carolina at South Carolina. South Carolina easy win, 52-7. Massachusetts at Central Michigan. UMass, one of the worst teams in the MAC. Central Michigan got a win last week. I picked them to win another one. 17-14. It'll be a low scoring game. Bowling Green at Eastern Michigan. This one will be a blowout. Bowling Green will put up, oh my god, they beat Ohio 49-0 last week. It's a good Ohio team, which I thought was good. Well, let me say it could be good. Bowling Green blew them out. Eastern Michigan, one of the worst teams. Might be the worst team in FBS. It's so many teams that there's probably about 15-20 teams that you could argue they're the worst team in FBS. But Bowling Green, wow, 56-3, 56-3 for Eastern Michigan. Alabama A&M at Georgia Tech. I feel bad for them. I have a friend that plays for Alabama A&M, but Georgia Tech by a lot, 56-0. Chattanooga at number 1 Alabama. God, 56-0 again. Georgia Southern at Florida. How much Georgia Southern doing this season? I know they're going to the Sun Belt next year. They're, I think, average they're 6-4. That's what I was thinking. Man, I can't do it. I mean, all signs point to Georgia Southern winning this game, because Florida, they quit. They just completely have quit. No quarterback play. The coaches are yelling at the fans. The fans are yelling at the coaches, calling for his head. The coaches are wanting the fans to get a grip. Can't play offense. The defense is kind of trailed off the last part of the season when they were expected to be good and look good early on. They did look pretty good last week against South Carolina, but there's going to be nobody there because Florida fans do not show up for a game that's not a primetime game, and sometimes they don't even show up for primetime games. I think Georgia Southern will be in this game at least until the third quarter, because they can play some good offense. We saw Georgia Southern play Alabama a couple years ago. They scored the most points, I think, by far, that Alabama given up the whole season to Georgia Southern. They went on a triple option attack. Very good. And I think Florida will be in for a battle, but something will happen, because something will happen when Florida won't beat them, when Florida won't lose. So go Florida 28-20 over Georgia Southern. Hawaii at Wyoming. Did Wyoming beat Boise State last night? I'm not sure. Did they? No. Boise State blew them out of the water. Wow. Why is Wyoming on a 4-game losing streak? What the heck? Wyoming has a good quarterback. their defense is horrible, absolute horrible defense. But I think I'm gonna beat Hawaii. Hawaii, I think, is still winless on the season, unless they came out and won last week. They lost last week to San Diego State. They're 0-10 right now. Wyoming has a really good quarterback. Brett Smith can throw the football, he can run it. It's a one-man show there, but I'll go Wyoming over Hawaii pretty easily. Can I kind of flip the score of what Boise State? I will flip the score of what Boise State did to Wyoming last week. I'll go 42-7, Wyoming over Hawaii. Georgia State at Arkansas State. Georgia State. I know everybody appreciates it when I talk about how bad Georgia State is, and they are still horrible, and they'll continue to be horrible. Oh my, if Georgia State beats South Alabama last week of the season, oh my God, I will die. I will die. Because I've talked about how bad they are all season. They're horrible. And I was actually asked to cover that game, Georgia State and South Alabama in the Georgia Dome. And it would have been pretty cool to go to the Georgia Dome and broadcast the game there. The freaking Georgia Dome. But that's the week of the Iron Bowl. I'm going to be at the Iron Bowl, so I can't do that. But anyways, Arkansas State should win this game. They have some pieces there at Arkansas State. Some explosive offensive players, David Oku, Adam Kennedy. Arkansas State by 3 touchdowns. At least 42 to 14. Arkansas State over Georgia State. New Mexico State at Florida Atlantic. I'll pick Florida Atlantic in this one because they absolutely blew Southern Miss out of the wire last week. I know Southern Miss has been the worst program. Frick, I said it so many times. One of the worst programs in FBS. They're in the country's longest losing streak. If I'm Southern Miss, I'm fighting to schedule an FCS program next season just so I can get a win. But I expect Florida Atlantic to beat them that bad last week. They beat them like 42-7. Something like that. Just because of that, I'm picking this one this week. They impressed me last week. I think they'll impress me again. Beat New Mexico State. Florida Atlantic 31, New Mexico State 20. Idaho at Florida State. Dear God, 62 to 3. Florida State over Idaho. Indiana at Ohio State. Okay, this is a game I've been scheduling, telling people about for a while, because Indiana almost beat Ohio State last season. I think they've came the closest to beating Ohio State the last couple seasons. Because they have a high-powered offense. Yes, they were beat by Wisconsin last week by a lot. But still, this is an Indiana team that is a high-powered offense, can throw the football around, and can score at any given time. Indiana has, they've competed in some of these games. They competed against Missouri, competed against Michigan State, scored a ton of points against Michigan. So, as long as you can score a lot of points, you're gonna be in some ball games. They played a very good Wisconsin team last week, so I was kind of surprised they only scored 3, but I still think they can score with anybody, really. So I expect them to give Ohio State a run for their money. Ohio State didn't lose. They came close. They kind of looked a little bit bad on defense last week against Illinois, trying to figure out what to say. And Indiana beat Illinois pretty handily last week before last, 2 weeks ago, I don't know. But I expect them to give Ohio State a run for their money. But kind of like I said about Florida, I just can't predict and see Ohio State losing to Indiana. But I can see them struggling big time. By big time, I think Ohio State gave up 47 points on last season. And I can't say it's going to be that much, but I'll say they're going to struggle. I'll go 45-35, Ohio State over Indiana. Oregon at Arizona. Arizona, been disappointing. I expect them to be undefeated at this point in the season, and they're not. That was my big surprise pick of the season, and they've disappointed me. Offense isn't doing nothing. I really don't think BJ Dinker is that type of quarterback to run an offense, and Oregon will blow them out by a lot. It's the undersized, slow defense of Arizona, so I think Oregon will do what they do to inferior teams and beat them by a lot. I go Oregon 55-20. I know Oregon's kind of tailed off the last couple of weeks, but still, they play these inferior opponents. They'll beat them by a lot. All right, here we go. Let me send this text message before I talk about Texas A&M LSU. My last text I get during this video. Gosh, man, I got so many more to talk about. How long have I been doing this for? Only 30 minutes. God, it's almost 1 o'clock. I have videos to record, work to do. Frick. Texas A&M at LSU. This will be a fun game to watch, and I think everybody in the country is going to be watching this game. Yeah, Zach Mettenberger going up against Johnny Manziel. And if Johnny Manziel wins this game, or if Texas A&M wins this game, I guess you can say if Johnny Manziel won this game. You see what I did there. I think he'll be right back up there in the Heisman talk. I mean, he's in there now, but I think he might solidify himself as number one if they win this game, which I believe is rightfully so. But I'm not sure if they can beat LSU. I really don't. LSU's defense is bad, so is A&M's, and I think this game will come down to running the football and what defense is worse in a sense. And I think everybody agrees that A&M's defense is worse than LSU's. I mean, Johnny Manziel will come out and have a great game like he always does, the best player in the country. He'll make some insane plays, and I'm looking forward to the game. But I just don't see LSU losing to A&M. I think they run the ball, play solid defense against A&M for A&M's offensive standards. But I just think that Mettenberger comes out has a field day against the A&M secondary, and I think they make a few more plays defensively than Texas A&M does. So I'm gonna go LSU by a field goal, 45-42 over A&M. Yep, that's gonna be a fun one. Next, we have Wisconsin at Minnesota. Love what Minnesota's done as a program lately. I mean, they Jerry Kill's been out with the seizures, narcolepsy. I could be totally wrong, but something's wrong with him. And an interim guy took over, and they've won, I think, every game since then, or at least only lost one. They're ranked now. They're ranked number 25, playing this game at home against a really good Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin is top 10 team in the country. They're very, very good. Wisconsin's always good, and it's an awesome program. Wisconsin is. But I expect Wisconsin to win. I think Minnesota's run ends. Don't get me wrong, Minnesota's a good team, but Wisconsin is a great team. And I think they'll run the football with ease. They'll be able to stop Minnesota's offense, which isn't that spectacular. So Wisconsin, the two-headed monster running back, wins this one. I think by at least by 17. I'll go 30. Let's go 34-17 Wisconsin. No, let's go 41. 41-17 Wisconsin over Minnesota. BYU at Notre Dame. Notre Dame's completely tailed off, lost to Pitt. BYU has lost a couple of games though. BYU previously mentioned Wisconsin. That was their game before last week. They played Idaho State last week and blew them out of the water, which was expected. But this is a very, very good BYU team. I think I said this a bunch of times. Don't understand how BYU lost to Virginia week 1. That made no sense to me. Virginia sucks this season. Virginia is horrible. And BYU, I think, is a top 15 team in the country. And they lost to them. I don't understand. They lost to Utah, too, which is a rivalry game. And I think they're a heck of a team. I really do think they are. And I think they beat Notre Dame. I don't think Notre Dame can stop the Russian attack. And I think BYU's defense is very good, too. I think they're a top 10 defense easily, as they pretty much always are. And I expect them to create a couple turnovers, force some mistakes with Tommy Rees. I think they'll keep the run game from Notre Dame in check, and I think BYU wins this game by 10 points. And that's keeping it kind of close. So it goes 27-17 BYU over Notre Dame. I think BYU runs the football, Taysom Hill. If you Notre Dame fans up there, or people out there that don't know who Taysom Hill is, and you're going to watch this game on NBC, I encourage you to do so because that's a fun player to watch, and then you should have a field day running the football. 27-17, BYU over Notre Dame. Boston College at Maryland. If Boston College wins this game, I believe they have the 8-win mark, like I predicted early on. They have 6. No, they need 2 more. Gotta be. Oh, that's very easy. That's actually, that's really easy for them to accomplish. They have to beat Maryland and Syracuse to end the season to win 8 games, like I predicted. And everybody's predicting 3-8, 4-8 for Boston College. No, a great running back, a freaking awesome running back, Andre Williams. I didn't expect him. To my defense, I didn't think Andre Williams was going to be that great. And the man has been playing out of his mind. Ran for 300-something yards last week against Syracuse, I think they played. Or somebody in the ACC they played. But he ran for a lot of yards. They have a lot of seniors on this team, senior-led team. So it does not surprise me at all that they're playing this well this season. I expect them to go into Maryland, get a pretty big win. I really do think they'll beat Maryland and stay on quest to their 8-win season and potentially 9 if they can win the bowl game. So a BC with a run game over Maryland, 28-21. Nebraska at Penn State. Man, this is actually a tough one. Nebraska's without Taylor Martinez for the rest of the season. Even though the two quarterbacks has been filling in for him, they've been playing quite well. I mean, they scored 28 points last week against Michigan State, I believe. 28 points they scored? Let me check. I think they gave Michigan State a run for their money for the most part. Yeah, they scored 28 points. That's what it was. They lost 41-28. But they squeaked out a couple wins before that against Michigan and Northwestern. And man, I really am not sold on Nebraska's defense whatsoever. And that kind of solidifies my argument last week. A Michigan State team which is perceived to not have a great offense, they gave up 41 points to them. On the other hand, they scored 28 points against a defense which I think is one of the best in the country, if not the best in the country. But it happens from time to time. But I think Penn State can win this game. I really do. Playing at home, I think this is be kind of considered an upset. But I think Penn State will be able to run the football. They'll get enough completions. It'll be one of the biggest wins of Christian Hackenberg's career thus far. I think the Michigan game by far easily is his best win. I think this could surpass that. I think they beat Nebraska by a touchdown. 35-28, Penn State over Nebraska. That's probably a little stretch, probably my biggest stretch of the league, but I think it can happen. UTSA at North Texas, two Texas Conference USA teams which have good offenses, and it's kind of hard to predict because two good offenses, two defenses which aren't that great. But I picked North Texas for two reasons: because they're playing at home, and for two, last week when Northern Illinois played Ball State had one loss. That was North Texas. If they don't lose to North Texas, they would have probably been they would have been ranked if they would have lost to North Texas. That would have made Northern Illinois' strength of schedule a lot better. But for that reason, North Texas over UTSA by 10 points, 40-30. Utah at Washington State. Utah's been struggling as of late. They've actually been playing another quarterback aside from Travis Wilson, which I don't kind of understand. I know Travis Wilson has thrown a lot of picks, but he's still a playmaker and has led them to a lot of close losses and upset wins, hence against Stanford. But Washington State came out last week. They did surprise me. They beat Arizona, and I think they keep the ball rolling. They beat Utah, and kind of a shocker. Another game that's kind of a surprise pick, but I think they can get it done. They'll throw the football around. Utah, I've said before, plays to their competition, and I expect them to win. If they win this game, they'll be bowl eligible. They have to win one game against Utah or Washington. And can they get it done? I think so. And I think it'll be a pretty big accomplishment for Mike Leach getting his first bowl game win at Washington, or first bowl game appearance at Washington. But they have to win one of these last two games. I think he gets it done. I think they beat Utah by a field goal. 27-24. Washington State over Utah. Colorado State at Utah State. And I'm going to look at something real quick because I've been wondering this. I've just been sitting there one day in class and wonder why haven't I heard about Chucky Keaton this season? I think he's been injured, but is he back? No, he's been injured for 4 weeks. 4 weeks now, yeah. And he'd thrown 18 touchdowns to 2 interceptions to that point. Wow. Why does nobody know about Chucky Keaton? Let me look. What is wrong with Chucky Keaton? He's a junior, so he'll be back next season, which is awesome. Because he's a really good quarterback. Chucky Keaton suffers knee injury. He's done for the season. Wow. Hopefully he'll be back next season healthy. That sucks, but I still would expect Utah State to beat Colorado State, even though they play some good defense. But these are two teams actually battling for their divisions in the Mountain West Conference. So this could be a tough Actually, I guess in the Mountain West, this is probably one of the biggest games of the year thus far. I mean, 2 6-win teams, but they're 4-2 in the Mountain West, 5-1, and it seems. I mean, obviously the teams got wins against UNLV, Hawaii, New Mexico. Obviously they've done something right with that other quarterback ever since Chucky Keaton's been hurt. Yeah, they lost to Boise State, but Boise State's also a pretty impressive team themselves. But I think Utah State wins this game close. Colorado State's a good team, a really good team, but I'll go Utah State by field goal, 34-31. Man, why am I taking so long? I gotta speed this up. Nobody cares. Nobody's probably watching this. Middle Tennessee at Southern Miss. Middle Tennessee continues to streak. Can't pick Southern Miss. They've lost 1,000 games in a row. Middle Tennessee by 4 touchdowns. By I don't even know how many touchdowns. 45 to 17. UTEP at Tulane. Tulane, Nick Montana, son of Joe Montana. That alone, he gets the win over UTEP because UTEP's not a good team anyway. Tulane, Tulane's actually bowl eligible. Tulane, I gotta check. I think Tulane, did they win last week? I think I predicted them to lose. They did lose, yes. They lost to UTSA, and I predicted them to. I was kind of iffy about it, but I got it right. So Tulane will bounce back. They've lost 2 in a row, I just saw, but they'll bounce back against UTEP, one of the worst teams in the Conference USA. So Tulane by 31-21. New Mexico State at Fresno State. Fresno State keeps rolling, trying to get to that BCS Bowl, which I think they can, which will probably be the Fiesta Bowl. And it will most likely, without a doubt, be the Fiesta Bowl because they get the last pick, and the last pick's also always the non-BCS team. So, yeah. New Mexico, I want to check how good they've been doing this season, because if you play NCAA football, sim a season with some updated rosters, and New Mexico will be undefeated through week 8 or something. They always are undefeated. I don't know why, but they are. And they're 3-7 in real life. So Fresno State, no problem, will win big. 52 to 17. Marshall at Florida International. I think Marshall gets the win. Good quarterback in Rakeem Cato. I think they roll a victory. Florida International, not a good team themselves. So Marshall big, 55 to 10. Arizona State at UCLA. To be honest with you, I don't want to seem, how do I want to put this? I don't want to seem too critical, but I really don't think UCLA is the number 14 team in the country. I don't think they're that great. I think they're good. I think they're deserving to be in a national spotlight. They should at least be a top 25 team, but I don't think they're that good just yet. They're not as good as people are perceiving them to be. I think Arizona State, on the other hand, is good. I think Brett Hundley's actually a little bit overrated, and I think another year coming back would be really good for his draft stock in the NFL. On the other side, though, Anthony Barr is a heck of a linebacker, and he'll be a top 10 pick in the NFL easily. But Arizona State has a bunch of really good pieces on their offense. Taylor Kelly's very underrated, great quarterback. Marion Grice, a wonderful running back, and they have some pretty good wide receivers. This will be a fun game to watch. But I do think Arizona State wins this game, even though it's at the Rose Bowl. I think Arizona State gets a win by 2 touchdowns. I'll go 45-32. 45-32 Arizona State over UCLA. Louisiana-Monroe at South Alabama. Man, I cannot pick South Alabama over anybody after seeing how they played against Navy last week. Even if they won, it would have been by 1 point probably. And you just can't pick South because, they've lost about every game by 1 point. Finally lost last week by a ton. ULM has Colton Browning back, so that sucks for everybody else because Colton Browning's a really good quarterback. So I expect them to have a field day against our secondary. Our secondary is horrible, absolutely horrible. I texted one of my friends who's getting looked at by South, and actually I think he got looked out by Michigan State and Tennessee. And I texted him and said, please, if you'd offer, commit to South because they need your help. Secondary, give up 200 yards of offense through the year to Navy. And you expect to contain Colton Browning, who is a really good quarterback. I think will actually start in the NFL one day. No, we won't. We'll lose by at least 2 touchdowns. I'll go 38-24 ULM over South, which sucks. So I'll make this impossible to make a bowl game because if we win the last 3 games of the season, we for sure get a spot in the GoDaddy.com bowl, but it won't happen. Louisiana-Monroe 38-24 over South. SMU at South Florida. South Florida has actually been a little bit more competitive as of late. They haven't been laying down really the last couple weeks, but they battled against They battled against Houston. I got that right. They beat Cincinnati earlier, but they were lost to Memphis last week. So completely forget what I just said. I guess I'm an idiot. I don't know why I said that, but Memphis is bad. You lose to Memphis, it's not a good thing. SMU, high-powered offense. Garrett Gilbert's still there, I believe. June Jones, that offense. Hawaii days come to mind when you think of him. But, yeah, I'll go SMU pretty big. SMU 45-10 over South Florida. Next, Kentucky at Georgia. If Kentucky wants to win a game against a good team, this would be the game coming off an emotional loss. This would be the game for Kentucky to come out and upset Georgia. But Aaron Murray, he's been the unluckiest quarterback I've ever seen in my life. And he will not allow them to lose to Kentucky. They want to make a bowl game. I'm not sure if they've made more than 6 wins yet. Have they? They have had to. They're at 6 wins right now. If they lose this game, they could be on the brink of not making a bowl game because they have one win against FCS opponent, which is Appalachian State. He won't allow them to lose to Kentucky and put that bowl game in jeopardy because I'm pretty sure Aaron Murray didn't come back not to make a bowl game. So I'm gonna go Georgia. They'll come out. They'll win. They might come out looking kind of sluggish early on, but Aaron Murray. This is kind of an exception to my emotional loss game thing predictions. Implications on my predictions because Aaron Murray won't lose. He's a good quarterback. He's so unlucky, but they'll win. Georgia 45-21 over Kentucky. Now, I don't know if they can score 45. 38-21 Georgia over Kentucky. Connecticut at Temple. I'm gonna pick Temple just because they beat Central Florida last week. 2 of the worst teams in the AAC. When I say one of the worst, there's 4 teams I think I've said over and over again in the AAC. I can never figure out which one is the worst. Connecticut, Temple, South Florida, Memphis. I guess Memphis out of this. I think it's between the loser of this game and South Florida. And I think South Florida actually beat Connecticut, so you're going to have to pick Connecticut. So I'm going to pick Temple. With all those facts, all the reflective losses, Temple over Connecticut 21-14. Western Kentucky at Texas State. I'm going to go with the Hilltoppers because they have a high-powered offense and they beat myself. Well, we beat Western Kentucky. But they brought us down to the wire. Every game before the Navy game, like I said, was on the last part of the game. We either lost or won. But they should beat Texas State, I think. Texas State were in the triple option. They beat us on a fourth. Texas State beat us because they converted a 4th and 28 on the last drive of the game. We were up by 2. They kicked the last-second field goal to win. I don't like Texas State because of that. We beat Western Kentucky, so I'm gonna go with who I like better, Western Kentucky. 28-24 for Texas State. Alright, Tulsa at Louisiana Tech. Both teams have been very bad. Tulsa surprisingly have been bad. Not so much on Louisiana Tech. They lost everybody, including their coach from a season ago. But I think Tulsa, they'll rebound. They've been playing bad, but they'll get a win against Louisiana Tech. They have a pretty good quarterback. Can't think of his name. Cody Brown. No, I don't care. But they'll win. I think Tulsa will win. 35-20. They'll get a pretty easy win. Vanderbilt at Tennessee. Did not know this was this week. A big rivalry game for these Tennessee schools. Actually, why is there a rivalry game this week? Which I'm glad because I hate that all the rivalry games are on one day because you can't watch all of them. Those are the best games, obviously. But I think Vanderbilt can win. Vanderbilt will win for the 2nd straight season. I think Tennessee will be competitive like they have been all season, which you have not seen from a Tennessee team in a long time. I think Vandy continues their streak and keeps rolling. They win against Tennessee no matter who plays quarterback, whether it be Carter Samuels or the other guy. Vanderbilt in a close one. I think don't undermine Tennessee by any means, because they've been competitive each and every week this season. But I'll go Vanderbilt by a field goal. Vanderbilt 35-32 over Tennessee. How much time? This has been going for 50 minutes. Can I get this under an hour, please? It's 1 o'clock. I got 2 videos to make. Got some work to do. Frick. All right. Missouri at Ole Miss. I think Missouri can beat Ole Miss. I think Missouri, everybody's believing in them now. They've been taking care of business. If they don't lose the game to South Carolina, they are probably 4th in the country right now, maybe 3rd, even in front of Ohio State, which would be deserving if they beat some pretty quality teams. But I think they beat Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss. It kind of sucks for Ole Miss because they played a tough schedule, and their 3 losses would be to number 8 Missouri, LSU, A&M, and Alabama. And that is pretty. If I'm a team that has 4 losses, I'm smiling because those if you lose 4 games, those are probably the best 4 games you could have lost. If there's such a thing. But Missouri, I'm really impressed by Matty Mock. I expect him to be that good because, I mean, coming out of high school, he's really, I think, a more mobile version of Chase Daniels. Same size, pretty much the same arm strength, same build. He's like the exact replica of Chase Daniels, and I think he has a big game against Ole Miss defense. And I expect this to be a real high-scoring game because Ole Miss will not lay down lightly. This is a night game in Oxford. Ole Miss is trying to get their biggest win in a very long time, and I know the LSU win was huge, but to beat a top 10 team at home, that would be absolutely crazy in Oxford, which is one of the best college towns in the world. So I'll go Missouri, close, very close, because this game will come out of the wire. They get the win with the field goal this time. Missouri 38-35 over Ole Miss. I'll say the best game for last. We'll go with Kansas at Iowa State. Kansas won last week against West Virginia, their first win in Big 12 play in the last 3 seasons. That's pretty big for the program. I expect them to get 2 in a row, and that would be if I was a Kansas fan and we won 2 in a row in the Big 12, I would be happy. But on the other hand, not happy because I don't think Charlie Weiss is the answer by any means long term. Because I've said this so many times, if you're Kansas, you got to bring back the days of Todd Reesing, obviously, to be competitive and you got not necessarily be a fluke, but you can't try to be physical with the talent that you get, and that's what he's trying to do, trying to play physical and trying to compete with the top teams in the Big 12 with their athletes. It ain't gonna happen. You gotta be a team like led by Todd Reesing. Throw the football, have somebody that can make plays back there, and they're not doing that. They won last week. Don't down them after that. They'll beat Iowa State, I think. They have the momentum and they'll win. Iowa State's still with us in the Big 12 this season, so they're fighting for the first win. But I think Kansas wins. Kansas by, I say, a touchdown, 28-21 over Iowa State. Boise State at San Diego State. I think Boise State's on a 5-game winning streak. I think 5 or 4 games. They blew out Wyoming last week. That surprised me. But no, actually, they're in the midst of a 2-game winning streak. They lost to BYU a couple weeks back. Forgot about that. But they've won 5 out of the last 6. Started the season 2-2, or they lost. I forgot they lost so bad to Washington the first week, which was kind of different not to have the Ole Miss talk. Boise State talk throughout the season about them making a fight for a national championship. That's been really weird ever since Kellen Moore's left. But they'll win. San Diego State, I think their record is a lot better than how they really are, or how good they really are. They're 6-4 right now. This is a team that lost the week 1 of the season to an FCS team by 3 touchdowns, I think. And they played close in the games they've won too. They almost lost last week against Hawaii. And Boise State's a heck of a team. I mean, even though they're not the top 25 team, top 15 team they've been in years past, the BCS Buster, they're still a solid team. They have one of the best coaches in the country in Chris Peterson. they'll come out and play solid. They'll win big, 45-20 over San Diego State. Washington at Oregon State. Oregon State's offense has completely fallen off the map, man. What has happened to Oregon State? They were one of the best passing teams in the country. And last 3 games, their offense has averaged, about 14.5 points a game when they were scoring like 50 points a game. I don't know what the heck happened, but I don't think they can beat Washington. Washington has ran into the toughest schedule of maybe the toughest stretch of any team in the country, because Washington was like a top 10 team, and then they go and they end up losing to Stanford, I think, and then ever since then they've gone downhill. Lost to Stanford, lost to Oregon, lost to Arizona State, had 2 easy wins against Cal and Colorado, and they lost to UCLA last week, which they could have easily won. But I don't think Keith Price has really played up to what a lot of people thought he was going to do his senior season. Kind of disappointing. Made some kind of he made more mistakes than a lot of people expected him to do. I mean, he's coming back for a senior season, and it's been a down year, I think, for him. And I think I say that, and when I've watched him play, I will say, when I've watched him play, he's not been impressive. But I went and looked at his stats. There are 4 picks. From when I saw him play, I would have expected him to have more than that, but it's kind of surprising that he only has 4. So, kind of retract kind of what I said. But when I've seen him play, he hasn't been as good as I saw him. He hasn't been as good as he's been in years past when I've watched him play. Sorry, I can't think. It's 1 o'clock. But he's still a good quarterback and some guy that I would not complain about having to lead my team. But I think Oregon State loses in this one. I think Keith Price comes out, they get a win, which is much needed for their bowl to get into a good bowl game, and I think Washington deserves it. I mean, you got to think this is a Washington team that 3 years ago, before Steve Sarkisian comes in as head coach, was a consistent 1-10, 1-11, 2-10, 0-12 team, and he's completely turned around, and it's kind of unnoticed how great they've turned the program around, or how crazy it is. But I expect them to beat Oregon State in a high-scoring game. I think Oregon State scores more points than they have the last couple of weeks. Definitely more than 15, but I think they edge them out. I got 42-30 Washington over Oregon State. And last game, we have the game of the week, Baylor at Oklahoma State. It's going to be rocking in Stillwater. Last time you watched Oklahoma State play in prime time, it was 2 years ago when they were trying to pass Alabama in the standings when they played Oklahoma in Stillwater, and they won by a billion. Frick, that was the last time they played. So it gets crazy. It gets crazy in Stillwater. It's going to be a fun game to watch. Fireworks all over the place. 2 very good offenses, and it's going to come down to which defense comes to play and can make more stops than the other defense. And I mean, you got Oklahoma State has home field advantage going for them. They've been playing very well. The only game I've watched fully of Oklahoma State all season was against Mississippi State. Their offense didn't look that great in that one, but I mean, they've obviously improved ever since then. Scoring 41 points a game they are, and it's just tough. It's just tough, but I don't doubt Baylor. I can't doubt Baylor. I can't pick against them. They've been playing so well. The closest game they played this season against Kansas State, and that was really their first. I mean, you look at the Baylor stats, and the teams they've played have not been that bad. They really haven't. They took care of business when they've had to. They had so many question marks around their team because the easy schedule they play the first 7-8 weeks of the season. They go home and play a decent Oklahoma team and a pretty good Texas Tech team, and blew them both out of the water. And look at their stats. It's insane. 3rd in passing yards, 384 passing yards a game. 9th in rushing yards, 300 rushing yards a game. And you got to think they're competing with the academy schools that run triple option. They're number 1 in the country points for, 61 points a game. They're 7th in the country in total defense, only giving up 17 points a game. That's absolutely insane. It's like somebody played an NCAA Dynasty and put them on freshmen. That's how crazy it's been. So you just can't go against Baylor with how they play in. And you got to remember it's the same Oklahoma State team that lost to West Virginia, who lost to Kansas last week. So you got to know they've had a game to come out and crap themselves. Baylor hasn't. Baylor's shown they're impenetrable. Oklahoma State hasn't. With that said, I expect this game to go down the wire. It should be a game in the fourth quarter, I think. But like I said, I think it comes down to which defense makes the more stops. And I think Baylor's defense is a little bit more proven. You got to take into account that Oklahoma State's defense is pretty good themselves, only giving up 19 points a game. But I think Baylor's defense, even though I think they have a little bit easier schedule, watching the two teams, comparing the two teams, I do think Baylor has the better offense by a little bit and the better defense. So I'm going to go Baylor by a touchdown, 48-41 over Oklahoma State. Alright guys, that was it. Hope you enjoyed. Sorry it's long as always, can't help it. I've tried to cut it down and I can't. If you have any ideas, let me know. Because these 4-hour nights, sleeping 3-hour nights probably tonight, it takes a toll on you. But that was my fault because I did a bunch of math homework that I could have waited to do. I got it over with. But anyways, hope you enjoyed. Please leave a like if you did. Leave a comment in the comment section below with your predictions for the week. And let me know if you disagree with any of my picks, agree with any. And just let me know if you have any crazy picks for this week. Who's your upset pick of the week? I haven't had anybody ever comment what their upset pick of the week is. So if you want to do that, break that streak, let me know. But please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Please follow me at Twitter at twitter.com/SRTR. Have a great day, great week, and as always, roll tide, go Sox, and go Titans to you. Peace.